Hello guys, I hope you are doing wonderful. I just finished mowing my lawn, and so I thought about getting some food, and I thought, you know what, how about I make some fried cabbage. We have a very tiny cabbage here, as you guys can see, very tiny. I haven't got this, I think, yesterday, but it's very tiny. So I'm taking out the cabbage, the top leafings of cabbage, and I'm going to be chopping it up a little bit. So I'll be chopping up the cabbage a little bit, and then I got some onions here. These are sweet onions, yellow onions. And then I'm gonna fry the cabbage, and I do have some leftover pork that I'm gonna be using to eat, as well as I'm gonna make Kenyan ugali. It's kind of like in America you would think like it's like a cornbread. So yeah, so I got myself here a mixture of ginger ale and cranberry juice, just with ice. Just to refresh me as I'm cooking, because I was burning hot when I was cooking. I'm sorry, when I was mowing the lawn. So yeah, so I'm cooling down a little bit to here before I make some lunch. So stay tuned. I don't know whatever you're watching from. If you eat fried cabbage, I think in America people do cabbage a little different, but I grew up eating fried cabbage when I was a kid in Kenya, and I think it's just something that I have kind of taken with me, or have kept with me over the years. So I just cut out the thick chunks that are usually in the middle of cabbage. This cabbage is very tiny, but we'll make it work. So I usually don't like those big chunks because they don't usually taste, or if you bite into them, they don't usually bite that great. So I do like my, I like my cabbage to be fine chopped. Alright, this knife is not quite sharp, so I will be I'm just sharpening up the knife a little bit. I don't know if you guys do that. Whatever you are. So I just cut it. I'm sorry, I just washed it and then rinsed it. As you can see, it's doing much better. So this will probably not take that long to cut because it's like a very small cabbage. So we're gonna fry this, and we're gonna boil some water, and we are gonna make what we call ugali, which is an East African meal. I think in West African and Northern African regions, I'm sure you guys, some of you, my viewers or whatever you're watching from, you have had a fufu. F-U-F-U, fufu. Fufu is kind of like similar to what I'll be making, but ugali is typically like cornbread, but it's much softer. It's made out of cornmeal. Speaking of which, I am gonna make sure that I do have cornmeal, because I will be lying to you guys if I end up not making ugali. So I have a very tiny little bit cornmeal left for making my ugali. So we're gonna have to make this work. I might have to use a Spanish type of cornmeal that I think they used to make tortilla flours. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. I think I do have that. So yes, so this is called masa, or instant cornmeal masa flour. So luckily we have that. So that tells you that since I came back from Kenya, I haven't had time to shop for cornmeal. So I guess I'm gonna be making my shopping list for cornmeal because I'm out. I typically like to have cornmeal around so that I can, if I'm feeling like eating a Kenyan dish, I can make a Kenyan dish easy, to have variety and whatnot. So what I'm doing is, these are the big chunks of cabbage that I personally do not like when I'm eating my cabbage. If I fry it and it's pretty thick, I don't like that thick taste of cabbage because and I like my cabbage to also be a little well done. So yeah, anyways, so we're gonna quickly try to get this underway. I don't want this to be a long, lengthy process. I am hungry from all that mowing that I was doing. So, all right. So this is the first I divided the cabbage into quarters, so that was the first quarter that I had chopped. I'm gonna take a look here. I have trying to get secondary footage in case I need to mix it up a little bit for my cooking. So guys, you guys can see the fine details that go into cutting cabbage and then frying it. I learned how to cook when I was a kid. So I'm the oldest of my siblings. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. If you go to my earlier video, when I was in Nyabohansa, Kenya and visited iammarwa, my brother Joe appears in my video and he also helped me to film that footage while I was at iammarwa's compound. So yeah, he's one of my siblings. So as the older sibling, I typically used to be the one who my mom would live in charge, especially she was a businesswoman and she still is, but she's now older, in the 60s. In my Masai Mara video trip, when we were making our way from Nairobi, Kenya to Narok, and then to Sekanani, when we were doing in Masai Mara to do a Masai Mara trip, my mom is behind in the background, and also in my video in Nakuru at Masai Market when we were buying the clubs and buying some of the ornaments. On the second day, she's also behind the scenes. So I just thought about it. But yeah, so I'm the oldest one of my siblings, so I typically would be in charge of making sure that when my mom wasn't home, that the household was in order. That meant sometimes cooking. So I learned how to cook from an early age so that I could help my mom to take care of my siblings. So out of that, I do enjoy and love cooking. I don't know if you guys checked out my video of grilling. That was just a taste of American cooking. Grilling is a very easy thing to do. You just get the meat, season it, Typically, a lot of meat we just use salt and pepper, and then we just throw that on the grill. Depending on what you're grilling, it typically doesn't take that long unless you have a lot of meat or you're grilling for a lot of people. That typically might take a little bit of extra time. But anyways, so we're cutting cabbage, and we're going to be frying that to hopefully make some ugali as well to eat with for our lunch. So stay tuned. So I don't know, whatever you're watching from, how do you guys make your cabbage? How do you guys eat your cabbage? I know that we also do in an African style way, especially East Africa. We also have what we call skuma wiki, or kales, or collard greens. Typically in the US, when you have collard greens, they're usually boiled for a long time, and they become soft and tender. Some people like to have them like whole leaves. They can become soft and tender, and then they salt them, and then they also use vinegar to eat them. So that's an American way. So for me, the way I was raised with kales or cabbage, we typically have it chopped, and then you fry it with oil and onions. Personally, for cabbage, I just like to fry mine with onions. There are people that prefer cabbage, and sometimes, actually, recently I was in Kenya, and I learned a new trick with frying cabbage. They add spinach, like chopped spinach or carrots in their cabbage. So let me see if I have carrots. Unfortunately, guys, I don't have carrots. That's another thing I'm gonna put on my shopping list. Carrots. We're out of carrots. But yeah, you kind of shred carrots into thin slices, and then you mix that with your cabbage. So we're just chopping cabbage here, and I'm taking out the big chunky stems that typically don't taste that great when you're cooking them. Alright, so I am just making sure that the pieces of cabbage that I'm going to be frying are the ones that I'm not going to bite into them and say yuck. So as you guys can see, so this is what I'm talking about right here. So this are kind of thick, chunky pieces. I don't like those. As you can see, I got them here, and I got trash can right on here on this side that I'm getting rid of them. Yep. So I wasn't planning on doing a cooking video, but I think 2 days ago I put a video out about the challenges, 5 challenges that I'm having with my small YouTube channel as I strive to grow the channel. And I kind of explained that sometimes I have a lot of ideas are coming about what content I can shoot. So this was just a random idea that I just had as I was just finished mowing my lawn and trimming the edges of the grass on my lawn, which had been overgrown since I had been in Kenya for 2 weeks, and during that time I hadn't mowed the lawn, and also it's been very dry here. So here is the fine chopped cabbage, which now I'm gonna go ahead and put on the side, and I'm gonna rinse my knife. So I'm rinsing my knife, and then we're gonna go ahead and chop I got into sweet onion, a very small, tiny one right here. So personally, I'm gonna try to see if I can lower the view on a view that's a good view of chopping the onion. My face is not in the frame, but let me see if I scoot over a little bit. Maybe you guys can see that. But typically, with my onions, I kind of usually take out the top layer of the onion and this onion looks like it's seen better days. So we'll be taking out the skin part that doesn't look that great. And then I'm going to be rinsing this. I like to cook with onions. I know some people, I like to cook with the onions, but I don't like raw onions. So the irony is this and this I feel like are very tiny. So I'm going to add another onion to my cooking. It looks like I'm not going to be adding onions to my shopping list because looks like, so I was just taking out the onion, crust or this. I don't know if you've ever cut an onion or whatever. It usually has a lot of fluffy things that fall on the ground. So I was taking that out in the trash can before I peeled this. So personally, I like to peel my onions. I don't know how other people cut their onions, but to me, this is how I do mine. I know people that are experts or professional cooks. They do theirs pretty quick. And like I said, some of these onions I've seen better days, so I'm kind of really trying to cut some raw or pieces that don't really look that great. So we rinsed our onion and we just rinsed our knife as well. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna try to get my face in a frame here. So we're gonna be chopping the onion here to be used to fry our cabbage. All right. All right, so I don't like that middle piece thing. Doesn't onion. That's it. These onions I've seen better days. So adding onions to our shopping list. Okay, there we go. So typically after I cut my onions like this, what I try to do, I had mentioned to you guys a minute ago that I don't like raw onions, like biting them. Like even in a hamburger or a sandwich, I personally don't like to like bite a piece of raw onion. Like I don't like that. I do like my onions if I am eating them in like a hamburger, or even we have a Kenyan salad called okay, actually this is a better view. We have a Kenyan salad called kachumbari, which is a mixture of onions, cilantro, tomatoes, some seasoning. You can throw in some carrots or green peppers, and it's usually heavily cilantro loaded, and it's where you kind of season it. But even with that salad, I usually want to make sure my onions are very fine chopped, and sometimes I kind of soak my onions in vinegar or with salt water to take out the bitterness. So I don't like that bitterness of raw onions personally. So that's just my preference. And then when I'm cooking my onions also, unless I'm doing like stir fry veggies and you have big chunks of onions that you fry and season, kind of like fajitas, that's fine. But when I'm cooking mine, I like mine to be fine chopped. Okay, so these are ready right here. Another one of my pet peeves, I think, is when I'm cooking, I don't like a dirty kitchen. So personally, when I'm cooking, I like to also clean up myself. I typically like to kind of clean after myself when I'm cooking, so that by the time I'm done, or even washing dishes as I cook, because by the time I'm done, then I don't have a pile of dishes or a pile of dirty stuff everywhere. So I personally like to kind of clean as I go along as I'm cooking. So like right now, I'm just trying to make sure that my counter is clean before we move on into the next row of, okay, before we move on to the next thing, which this is an exercise block that I was using to prop my phone for filming. Okay, so we have cut the onions. They're finely chopped, as you guys can see, finely chopped. And I have the cabbage is right here, onions. Then we are gonna be this is my stove, so let me get a good angle, because now we are gonna be preparing to start cooking, as you guys can see there. Wait, I'm gonna get a cooking pot. That I'm gonna be using to fry my cabbage. All right. Okay guys, so these are the onions that I'm going to be putting in a pan here. Okay. When I'm cooking, I usually use vegetable oil for frying cabbage. So I don't know if you guys can see. Here's my onions. So yeah, here's my cooking oil that I'll be putting. Might need a little more. I'm gonna turn on the heat here. I am gonna go ahead and get me cooking a wooden starting stick. Oh. So that's my trash can that I was saying it was on the side of the corner there. Let's go see if we can get ourselves a good angle there. So as you can see underneath that cooking pot, definitely it's hot. Alright, I'm gonna put the air suction thing. I think I'm gonna take my glasses off because they're gonna get soggy. They're gonna get foggy, not soggy, as I'm cooking here. So I'm gonna get a cover, a pot cover, and I think I will be adding just another teeny little oil into my pot here, and I'm gonna cover that and let the heat as we do that, as the heat warms up, like I said, I like to clear the kitchen when I am cooking, so we're gonna go ahead and take care of clearing the kitchen. Okay, so I'm trying to see what will be a good angle to show you guys as I okay, that's better. All right, and while that is maybe that is kind of too far away, so let me attempt to just see if I can get a different angle. Wait, tricky. So we're still cooking our fried cabbage, but we're also multitasking here. Okay. Anyway, guys, so I'm quickly trying to clear my sink as we. So we have a dishwasher, but I think, old habits that I had. When since I grew up in Kenya and everything, we used to do everything by hand without any assistance of little machines or devices. So sometimes I kind of try to do that. So I'm kind of getting rid of the glasses and the cups first before anything else. And you guys can tell it is so I'm just starting the onions as they cook. So we fry the onions first before frying the cabbage. So okay. All right. So we're gonna quickly. So guys, I'm just trying to clear my sink as we fry our cabbage here. So the onions are cooking as we work on trying to minimize the amount of dishes that we have in the sink. I am starting to smell the onions, so you want to make sure they don't burn. This is multitasking, fellas. So ladies and gents, we're just basically multitasking. And my onions are starting to turn brown, which is typically meaning that they're cooking. See? So I'm gonna brown them up a little bit before they're ready to be, for me to put the cabbage in. I'm also gonna turn down the heat on the stove because the other thing about cooking cabbage is it cooks pretty fast. Okay, so my onions turning brown, which is how I like them to be before I put in cabbage. So I turn the heat low, and I am going to go ahead and start with finding little bigger chunks. So I don't put all the cabbage on at once. I put maybe about half of it, and then what I'm going to do first is to start gently. So what I'm doing is basically I'm trying to get the oil, and I don't know if you guys can see the cooked onions that started to brown. So start to mix it, to mix the oil, the onions, and the cabbage. So once it mixes, then I go ahead and add the rest of my cabbage. And I'm not going to start that yet. I'm going to let that be for just a little bit, and as I give that a couple minutes, I am going to rinse this bowl that I have cabbage in quickly. I'm going to keep an eye on my cabbage. Okay, so this is my second mixing or stirring of the cabbage. As I said, it's gonna cook pretty fast. It doesn't take that long to cook, and that's part of the reason why you turn the heat down low so that you don't burn your cabbage. So as you guys can see, ladies and gents, it is mixing nicely right now. Anyways, I'm not a chef, but I do love to cook. So, yeah. So what I'm gonna do next is I am gonna get my seasoning. So I have salt, black pepper, and I will be using, well, this is a spicy beef flavor seasoning. This is made by Royco. This is from Kenya. So recently when I was in Kenya, I was able to bring some of this because I had ran out. The funny story is that we had actually gotten two flavors. Chicken, it's called a Royco choosing mix flavor. So I had a beef and I had a chicken. But because currently in the U.S. there's an outbreak of what is the bird flu or something like that. So any chicken seasonings were not allowed, and they were confiscated at customs. Another funny story is, so when we were at customs, apparently we had an open bag of beef jerky, of all things. That we had beef jerky that we had eaten and we hadn't finished. That somehow, when we were passing through customs after we cleared with immigration and we were coming, and then just happened that there was a canine dog at the airport with an officer that smelled one of our bags. So we had to go into customs. We had to answer a couple questions, and then our bags had to be ran through the scanning machines. And I had there was some flour that I thought that was the reason why, but we later found out it was actually the beef jerky that we had opened and ate and wasn't finished, and we just wrapped that up in a Ziploc bag and threw it in a suitcase and thought that since it was a checked bag, it wouldn't be an issue. But apparently that we got stopped because of beef jerky. So anyways, that's just a little tidbit there. So yeah, my cabbage is cooking just fine. So we don't want to burn it. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, it's starting to change color, meaning that it's cooking, and I have it on cooking on low heat because I don't want to cook it too fast. So I usually season that salt and black pepper. Okay. So then we're going to stir it. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we just seasoned this with salt and black pepper, and we will be using the Royco beef seasoning. It's going to be the last thing right before we take it off that we're going to be using. We're going to be seasoning, so as we do that, I'm going to try to wrap up my task of clearing the sink. Like I said, I like to multitask a little bit so that when I'm done with my cooking, I'm ready to eat. I have very minimal few dishes that I have to contend with. That's just a personal preference of mine. I don't know how you guys do. Like I said, there is a dishwasher here, but also being conservative with power, especially right now, it is hot, so we use the AC system to cool down the house with electricity. So any amount of heat or electricity that you can conserve goes a long way. Okay. So our cabbage is still cooking, but we're gonna check it in a minute here, because like I mentioned, you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to cabbage, not to overcook. All right, so I am slightly just gonna turn the heat up just a little. What guys do you guys think? Does this look like anything that you guys eat? So the other thing is some people prefer their cabbage to be like the way it is right now. Like it's a little soft and tender but not cooked all the way. Like I said, personally I like mine to be a little, maybe I didn't say that. Maybe I just like mine to be cooked slightly longer. So anyways, I will be putting the Royco seasoning in there here in just a couple minutes. In the meantime, just trying to get our sink clean. Alright, so here is our Royco seasoning. It is a spicy seasoning, so you don't want to put too much in it. Alright, so once I put that in the cabbage, then I'm gonna mix, and you're gonna start to see it's gonna start to turn color a little bit. That's the Royco spicy beef seasoning. It's not super spicy. We're not talking about like tandoori chicken spicy. We're talking about just slightly spicy, but you don't want to put too much, because too much then makes it not too spicy to eat, and also that's not what we want. So I am just gently mixing it to make sure the flavor is evenly distributed, because I don't want to use too much, and it's just to spice it up a little bit. But we grew up with Royco seasoning, the chicken mix and the beef mix. Now I think they make all type of seasonings with tomato and garlic. This seasoning, I think you can get it on Amazon or a lot of online retail stores, but I think it's cheaper for me. But sometimes if I have friends or people that I know that are traveling from Kenya, I usually, make an order or request. Or like recently when I just traveled to Kenya, I was able to get myself a couple of this. But like I said, our chicken flavor was confiscated with customs because of beef jerky. Anyway, so that's the story for another day. Anyway, so the cabbage is cooking down here. I had turned the heat on a little bit. So as you guys can see, my kitchen looks a lot clearer. I can start to hear my cabbage starting to stick to the pan. That's just an instinct that you cooked the meal a long time and you don't have to cook it. I'm gonna rinse my hands here quickly. You can start to hear the tickling sound of cabbage. So it's ready. Okay. Yeah, because it's starting to stick on the pan. That's how you can hear and tell. Well, that's just me. I don't know about you guys with everyone's cooking style, but this is ready. So I'm just turning it, stirring it for one last time, and then I'm gonna turn the heat off. And okay, so we're turning the heat off, and then I am gonna do I had mentioned that we're gonna be doing ugali. So, yeah. So here is a cooking pot. Basically what I do is we just fill that up with water. I'm greasing the pan there. So we're gonna fill that up with water. Since this is just ugali for one person, it's not gonna be a whole lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and boil the water. It usually takes about 5 minutes depending on the heat for the water to boil, and then once it boils, we're gonna go ahead and make our ugali. So as that is continuing, final dish clearing. So for me, I do this because the amount of time it takes for you to cook and finish cooking a meal, then you have a whole mountain of dishes. I mean, some people prefer to just leave the dishes and then after they eat, they throw them into the dishwasher. But I think for me, when you grow up not having something, you don't always rely on that thing because you default, you know, to factory settings, but the natural way of doing things. But that's just me, you know, that's just me. And I don't want to say that's the process for everybody, but yeah. So we just rinsing and cleaning the sink. Make sure that we have a clean kitchen after we are done with cooking. Alright. So dishes are done. Wiping the counter. Anyways, so and the dirt. And voila. So that's fine to have a clean kitchen while you're still cooking versus where now you have to worry about cleaning afterwards. So the water is boiling. It's almost ready for cooking mat. Other thing I'm gonna do here is just to clean the counter, the cooker here of the cabbage residue that fell while we were cooking. And then I'm gonna go ahead and move my cabbage to the side. The cooked cabbage to the side as we make way for our ugali, and spices put away, salt and pepper, okay. So like I said, I only had a little tiny cornmeal flour left, and we have this. So what I'm likely gonna do is I am actually gonna reduce the amount of water for the ugali because I don't think I'm gonna be making that much ugali, because it's just little lunch, nothing too big, not for too many people. Anyway, so my cranberry juice and Cranberry juice and ginger ale mix really is refreshing, especially after high heat, mowing along and trimming the edges. Okay, so my water is bubbling, ready for making ugali. I'm gonna reduce the water, like I mentioned. And so this is a wooden cooking spoon that we use to make ugali. Let's see if I can get you guys a better angle. Okay, so the water is bubbling right there. You can see the heat is red hot. I'm gonna tie it down, and I'm gonna open the flour. So basically what you do is you just put the flour in there and you start to stir. So I am going to be mixing So what I'm doing is I'm just stirring it. It's kind of like when you're making dough for baking, but in this case we cook it on low heat. You boil the water, you put the flour, and then you kind of stir it over and over again to make sure that the flour mixture is properly stirred. So there's a yellow cornmeal, there's a white cornmeal, and then there was the Spanish meal that I use. This is for making tortillas, but right now it's a substitute. It's just something I got a long time ago that I was gonna use to make ugali, but it didn't work out as much or it didn't have the same flavor, but I kept it around anyways. So like I said, this is a very slow process of cooking this. So you kind of stir it becomes like a hard but soft lump of ugali. Ugali is a ugali. It's a staple East African dish that is used, that is typically made and eaten almost every day. When I was a kid, our dinner consisted of ugali. You can eat it with a stew, with veggies. So yeah, you can eat it in many various ways. So we're just slowly cooking it up. I'm gonna turn the heat a little higher because the other thing also is I don't want to burn it, but I want to cook it slowly because the other thing is kind of almost like when you're baking also, if you bake bread, you don't want that raw doughy feel to it. So anyways, yeah, so we just fried cabbage and we are making ugali that we will be eating shortly for lunch. So anyways, so it is a process. It's a process because it's funny now that I'm thinking about it. As I'm making the dish, like when you're used to making a dish, you don't typically think of how long it takes you to make it. But now that it's been almost a whole hour from scratch with making the cabbage and now making the ugali, but we're almost there. So we are almost there. Making ugali. Guys, tell me what you think about this video. So also when I make this Kenyan dish, it's also a way to remind myself of my culture. So we just started, and then we let it cook a little bit as we finish making the ugali. Refreshing cranberry juice and ginger ale. Anyways, so you should be ready here shortly in a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get some plates. All right, we'll put that away. So it is cooking. Also, I don't know if this can be seen, is the bottom of the cooking pot start to turn brown. Let me see if I can show you. That's also when you know that this is ready. But you started turning it to make sure that it cooks evenly and doesn't have a doughy taste to it. So I just flipped it to make sure that it cooks properly. Alright, so as we are getting ready to eat here, I had mentioned that I had some leftover foods that we're gonna be using okay. So this is grilled ribs, pork, kind of like pork chops, grilled pork chops that we had made. So I'll be using them to eat with the cabbage and the ugali. I'm getting a cutting board here, and my ugali is ready. And what I'll be doing is basically putting it in a pan. As you can see, very sizzling hot, and yep, that's how the pan looks like. We'll be putting, it's gonna cool down, and then we're gonna put some cold water in it to soften it, so that it's easy to clean. Okay, so now we're gonna set our ugali on the side, and I'm gonna go ahead and get my pork ready. So the way, since this is already grilled, all I gotta do is just warm it up and it'll be ready to be eaten. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and heat this up. Alright, so I am just warming up my meat, and in the meantime I have my ugali ready here. These are kids blocks that I was using to prop up my setup for cooking. So I'm just cutting my ugali into small pieces that are gonna be easy to eat. So that's the last for meat. Our ugali is ready right there, and we're warming up our meat, and then we will be ready to have and enjoy our lunch. And I'm also gonna try to make sure that we get a shot of that cabbage. So our meat is ready, sizzling hot as you can see. And we have our cabbage. So I'm getting myself a serving of the cabbage. Here is a serving of the cabbage. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give myself some cold water to guys, this is the moment of truth. Labor of love here that we working so hard. I got my cabbage, I got my ugali, got my water. And so if I was in Kenya, what we typically would do is you will get a piece of ugali like this, and you're gonna roll it like this. Like that. You roll it and you kind of make like a dent, and then what you do is you grab the cabbage and the meat, and then good stuff. Here's my cabbage, ugali, and my grilled pork. So what do you think? Is this a dish that you have on the side of your world or whatever you're watching from? Also, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. But I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy my delicious home-cooked meal. As you guys saw, a labor of love, but I'm finally ready to enjoy it and see what the rest of the day has for us. Anyway, thank you once again. Subscribe, like, share, and I will check you out in my next video. Kwaheri, ciao, goodbye.